Hey guys, welcome to the Big Ten Week 4 wrap up. I'm your host, Rico Beard. And okay, so the biggest question going into this weekend for me was who is that fourth team in the Big Ten? Who's that one team that can challenge to actually go to the college football playoffs? So let's just go right into the biggest game of the week. It was number 9 Illinois traveling to Indiana. Now, look, if you know Indiana football, you know that Indiana does not do well against ranked teams. As a matter of fact, it's abysmal. It's almost like Washington Generals type of level. But now all of a sudden, cue Kirk Cignetti, the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. Cignetti has Indiana playing on an entirely different level. Guys, this isn't your father's Hoosier team. As a matter of fact, the Hoosiers are playing so good that they're making a lot of Michigan State fans envious because you got two guys in their second year at their program, and Indiana is on the verge of going to back-to-back college football playoffs. Now, the thing about Indiana is feast or famine when it comes to the Hoosiers. Yesterday, feast. They feasted on the Illini. It was just not even close. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Unless you're a Hoosier fan, 63-10. And Kirk Cignetti, the thing that I like about him now, it wasn't smart, but I get it. It's the edge. Man, the man leaves his starters in for the entire game. It seems like he just wanted to rub his nose in the face of Bielema and the Illini. He wanted to show everybody that Indiana wasn't a one-hit wonder. Indiana was not a fluke. Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback, threw for 5 touchdowns in that game. This game was over before it started. Yeah, at 63-10, it was not close whatsoever. This catapults Indiana, in my opinion, into that fourth best team. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon were already there. And there was a battle between the other teams that are on there. Now, that's not taking anything away from Michigan. It's not taking anything away from USC. It was just the utter dominance. Like Indiana played the best game, and they got it done. And the other teams have flaws. Indiana is just, their biggest flaw is which team shows up. Because a lot of times when they go up against the ranked teams, you saw what happened in the playoffs. They folded. Not this time. This time, they were the aggressor. This time, it was a nonstop pursuit. It was just relentless. You felt bad. I mean, if this was a video game, it would be what I call a reset button, where you just lean over, hit the reset button, and concede the victory to your opponent. Can't do that in the real world. You got to play this thing out. Indiana goes and just, in my opinion, becomes that fourth best team. They're right up there with they're right up there with Ohio State, and Oregon, and Penn State. And we're going to find out more about them. They're going to play Oregon on October 11th, and then they got Penn State late in the year. They do not play Ohio State. They do not play Michigan. We'll see what happens. The scheduling game in the Big Ten, unfortunately, when you expand it to 18 teams, you're going to miss out on some good matchups, unfortunately, because you don't know at the time who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. Indiana is really going to prove their worth. They got Iowa next week at Iowa. Iowa's surprising victory. Shout out to Iowa on Friday night, scoring 38 points, going on the road to Rutgers and beating Rutgers. And this is like, wow. Iowa scored 38 points. That's like 60 to anybody else. Iowa at 38 points. So the Hawkeyes they're going to host Indiana, and we'll see what Indiana, if they can, not get too high and keep this thing going. And it sets up a great game at Oregon. And that's going to tell me a lot about this Hoosier team. On the road, because you did it at home, on the road, can you do it in Eugene when you play the Oregon Ducks on October 11th? Mentioned Iowa defeating Rutgers. The other games that I want to talk about, probably the other big one, big surprise to me was, you look at first of all, for Maryland getting it done as well. Maryland on the road at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was favored in that game. Give it up to the freshman quarterback. Maryland is getting it done. And guys, quietly, very sneaky team with Malik Washington. Look, Loxley, I think, is on a little bit of a hot seat. But all of a sudden, man, Maryland is sneaky good. They're sitting there at 4-0. And they're one of those teams in the Big Ten that you still don't quite know what they are, but I don't think they're a pushover. Going on the road to Wisconsin is never easy, and they did it 27-10. So watch out for Maryland. Watch out for Malik Washington, the freshman quarterback. He's the guy that we're not talking about. The quarterback we are talking about, I might as well jump into that, is Bryce Underwood. And Michigan goes on the road and defeats Nebraska. This was a battle of the two most hyped quarterbacks for the last 2 years, and Dylan Raiola and Bryce Underwood. And in the game, look, Raiola had better stats. Raiola threw 30 for 41, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had better stats than Underwood. Underwood finished the game with 12 completions for 105 yards. But the difference was Nebraska just squandered chance after chance after chance. And really, for every chance that Nebraska squandered, they could have been up at least 10 or 14-0 early in the game. Michigan didn't. Michigan took advantage. Michigan made sure that they scored the points. They got ahead, and once they got ahead, it was Justice Hayes' time and the running game. And you know what? I got to give it to Underwood because he had a fantastic 37-yard touchdown run, untouched, great play calling. He did score a touchdown that way. Michigan on the road in Nebraska, to me, took a step forward. They're in that category of teams that could flirt with the college football playoffs. Now, the thing about Michigan that I do not like, Michigan, if Michigan had wide receivers, I could put Michigan as my number 14. That's really the big difference. They don't have wide receivers. And it was like I heard some incredible stat, but I think we're going on a couple seasons now that Michigan hasn't had a wide receiver with a 100-yard game. That's incredible. And as you saw in this game, there were plenty of times that receivers could have made plays and they didn't. They dropped the pass. It went off their fingertips. That's going to bite them. And you saw when they played Oklahoma, that bites them because if you could slow down the Michigan running game, and it was a great running game. Justice Hayes is proving to be everything that Michigan fans thought he was going to be. He had another big run for a touchdown. But if you force Bryce to step back and pass the ball, Bryce doesn't have receivers. If Bryce had one receiver that was really worth a damn, they could go out there and get it done. Donovan McCauley, the transfer from Indiana, not really that dude. I mean, he's the best that they have. But that's the one thing that's holding me back from saying that Michigan is going to be a playoff team is the fact that they do not have wide receivers. Now, what helps the Wolverines was this game was one of their 50-50 games. They won the game on the road. Michigan does not have to play Penn State. They don't have to play Illinois. They don't have to play Indiana as well. So that bodes well for the Wolverines. The biggest game that they have is the end of the season game with Ohio State. Now, they do have some games in between that could trip them up, but right now, I think now they're looking forward to their game. I would say probably the next big thing for me, let me pull up their schedule, make sure I get this right. They got Wisconsin. They got a bye. And then they got Wisconsin. And then they go to USC. USC, man, they showed on late Saturday night, Sunday morning why they are like one of the top scoring teams in the nation with offense all around the board. MSU really, Michigan State had a chance early. They scored first, but then after that, USC just went bonkers. They went crazy, and Michigan State never really stood a chance. They were able to bounce back. They were able to get some stuff done, but Jaden Mayava, 3 touchdowns, and he was just in control of the offense, the tempo, everything that Lincoln Riley wanted done. they got it done. As a matter of fact, it was a point in the game where I was thinking, if I'm a Michigan State, if I'm Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, I'm just not punting the ball anymore. And the unfortunate part is, man, they are wasting one of the best punters in the nation because he is giving them he has put them in great positions, but the defense is horrific. The defense is just abysmal. I mean, I get it. It's USC. They put up a ton of yards, but Joe Rossi has to do something to fix this thing because, okay, USC, you're giving that credit. Okay, so what was the deal against Boston College? You made the quarterback look great. What was the deal against Youngstown State? What was the deal against Western Michigan? Michigan State can't get off the field. And there was a time in the game where I think it was a 7-point game. It's either a 7 or 10-point game. Late, I think it was in the fourth quarter. MSU gets a stop. They were going to force USC to punt, and maybe they could tie the game up because all of a sudden they found this rushing attack that was working. It was third and like something ridiculous, and they let Miami get out of the pocket and scramble and run down for like 20-some yards and pick up the first down. And then there was another fourth down play. They couldn't get off the field and get a turnover on downs. Defense just can't make stops. Defense just can't get off the field. Defense cannot tackle. Defense is just abysmal. That's the biggest problem with this team. Offensively, look, USC brought pressure on both sides of the line. The offensive line for Michigan State didn't really hold their own. But Aiden Childs, you see the maturation from last year to this year. He's able to step up. He was able to make plays. They found a little bit of a running game. They scratched and clawed their way back into the game, but the defense couldn't stop anybody. That's the problem. If you want a moral victory, you could say that Michigan State got a moral victory. USC wins the game 45-31. You didn't get blown out. It was a backdoor cover. They threw a late touchdown pass to Amari Kelly. And, you kind of feel good, but you shouldn't. Because in my opinion, Jonathan Smith has yet to have that signature victory. And for those saying, well, give him some time. The problem is, I said it earlier in this pod, is Kirk Cignetti. Cignetti is getting it done. Cignetti brought the best players with him from James Madison. Jonathan Smith brought some. He didn't bring his best. Belling showed up, got his first touchdown of the year. But they're not the same. And that's what's frustrating because in this day and age, you don't get an opportunity to wait 4 or 5 years. That's the problem. Now, Smith, he's going to have a chance to go out there. He's got a bye week. And then they're on the road at Nebraska, who just played Michigan. We will see if the Spartans can keep the offense going. Because, like I said, Frazier played in the game. Marsh played in the game. USC kind of took Marsh away. But you saw other people stepping up. You saw Aiden Childs using his legs. But in the end, the defense just couldn't. If you score 31 points on the road, you should be in a game. You should win that game. Except if your defense is just giving up 45 points. And honestly, they probably could have scored again, but they just kind of took a knee. So that's the problem with MSU is they're Joe Rossi and that defense. I don't know what you have to do now. Yes, you had injuries happen. You had a targeting call on Jordan Hall. You had a lot of things, but it also shows me that you don't have a lot of depth. That if players go down, it's football. It's a contact sport, and it's so unfortunate what happened. But in the end, you have to be able to go out there, and you have to be able to move on. And, Wayne Matthews flew back with the team. Wayne Matthews looks like he's going to be okay. He sent a tweet out and some stuff out on Instagram saying he appreciated the love and support. You saw players go down. You saw Jordan Hall go down. Guys, that defense was bad before all of that stuff happened. So I can't even say, well, it was because of that. If they played, it would have been better. No, it wouldn't. You had plenty of time that you could have got Maeva in the backfield, and you didn't. And you let him extend the play and make big plays. And as I stated, I get it. It's USC, and USC is known for offense. But it's something that it's been a recurring pattern for the last 4 weeks. If this doesn't get fixed, I don't see how Smith keeps Rossi around, period, because I'm not seeing improvement. I'm not seeing anything. Like I said, offensively, the offensive line, through the injuries, they do enough, but Childs is kind of learning how to just kind of take things on his own, be smart, punt the ball, don't make bad throws, don't make bad decisions, and you're never out of the game. But defense, oh Jesus, I don't know what to say. But USC, the other side of the coin, USC scored 45 points. USC and Lincoln Riley looks like they are finally that team that could do something. And the beauty of USC is their running game. They actually ran for almost 300 yards, 289 yards to be exact. They ran for more than they passed. And by doing that, you control the clock. It's not the typical USC team. Now, great offense, explosive defense. The reason why I can't put USC in the top four, their lack of discipline. They have all the bells and whistles and the toys and everything, but USC has to be better when it comes to penalties and giving their opponent extended plays and first downs and taking away things from themselves. Their lack of discipline, to me, is the biggest drawback from USC. If you can fix that, and then that is a correctable problem, you fix that, and I think now you're looking at a team that could possibly get to the playoffs from the Big Ten. But you got to fix that, man, because nobody's going to want to play you. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing Michigan's lights-out defense going up against USC's lights-out offense. That's must-watch TV. Pray to God it doesn't come on in the middle of the night like this last game was. And I think people will really, really enjoy it. But overall, like I said, Indiana was the winner of the week for me. Indiana showed me that they are the fourth best team. Right on the outside looking in is Michigan. I like what they're doing. They're a super, super, super aggressive defense. They aren't getting the quarterbacks time to think. Look, as I said, Dylan Raiola had stats. And if you just look at the stats, you're like, well, he played pretty well. If you watch the game, Michigan was in his backfield. Michigan was hitting him. Michigan was just confusing him. They scored late to make the score look good, but it was a game that Michigan was in control. Oh, let me say this. Now, Sharon Moore's coming back. I almost forgot this, and I don't know how. Poggi, it's a reason why you're not the head coach. At the end of the half, Nebraska is just going for the Hail Mary. You had 3 timeouts. What did you do with your 3 timeouts at halftime? Because apparently you wanted to save them and not use one, force Nebraska to punt the ball, or because they would have had to punt the ball to you, and that was a touchdown off the board. Like I said, looking at the score, Nebraska scored. But the touchdown, the Hail Mary right before at halftime never should have happened. You call one of your timeouts, you force them to now make a decision, they would have punted the ball. But because you let them run the clock down, I would have did the same thing. Fine. 1 second left. Either it's an incomplete pass, an interception, or a touchdown, but no matter what, it's not going to hurt us. So it's a free square. You gave them a free square. You have to be smarter than that. You can't give up points to good teams. Now, can't get that angry because Sharon Moore is going to be back. But if you're Michigan, never let that happen again, because you took the timeouts in the halftime and they're like, coupons that are now expired. They did you nothing. They would have never gotten that. They went into the halftime tied up. Now, fortunately for Michigan, you got a running back who could hit a crease and take it to the house, and that's what he did. He got Michigan back on top. But that was the biggest problem whatsoever in that game. So I forgot about all that. All right, but like I said, Indiana, winner of the week. They proved to me they're the 4th best team. Michigan, USC, they're right on the outside looking in at being a playoff team. Michigan, they got to get better offense and better wide receivers. They got to get them better. USC, they have to clean up the penalties. And, watch out for Maryland. Watch out for Washington. They won the Apple Cup. They're still laying in the weeds. Michigan State, my God, man, you got to fix your defense. So that's the instant reaction for week number 4 in the Big Ten. I'm your host, Rico Beard. Thanks for watching. I'll be back later on the week with Harold Shelton from the Big Ten Network as we preview week 5. So thanks for watching the 5 Star Zone.